The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
I was hoping Steve could have restarted.
Welcome to Spindle City. What are we doing?
I said I was hoping Steve could restart. Oh no, we don't have to. We're on. We're on. Okay.
Yeah, I know we are. Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ. Sorry for the confusion.
And welcome to live television.
Yeah.
So, let's get the COVID reports from Starship Commander COVID.
Okay. Let's see what we've got here. As of yesterday, we had 475,925 cases of COVID. New cases was 3,750. Total deaths was 13,844, with new deaths being 67. The Bristol County count is 47,399, and that was as of Saturday. For some reason, they didn't post the count for Bristol County yesterday. As of Friday, we had 55 new COVID cases, which put us up to 10,646 in Fall River. And we have one more liability, bringing us to a total of 274. So that was interesting. While we're on COVID, I received a message from State Representative Carol Fiola. She wanted to clarify that the state legislature is not getting the vaccines first. What I should have said when I spoke about that was that the federal legislators all have their vaccines. I had no comment really about the state legislators as of yet, but Carol Fiola said that she's in the last group of people who will be eligible for the vaccine. So I'm sorry for any confusion that may have happened. You know, sometimes I don't think that I've got to clarify between state and federal legislators, but it's nice to know that people are watching and holding us accountable.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's hold them accountable too, because actually I'm going to probably call Representative Fiola, because she is my rep, and I'm going to complain to her about the distribution of the vaccines, period. And I don't care about her getting it. It's about the way it's being distributed. As I said, you know, Charlie Baker is making this as difficult as possible. I'm just going to give her my position, which is I have stated previously. Obviously, we have to deal with frontline workers and stuff and people who are exposed. But let's face it, even if they do get it, if they're young and strong, they're probably not going to have a major problem with it. But the people who are not getting it right now, I'm looking at that litany of lists, are the people with a medical necessity. It should be the elderly with comorbidities and the elderly first. We know that kills, that's where 99% of the deaths are coming from. Why do politicians have to play politics with medicine? This is wrong. And our representatives should be standing up and telling that pinhead Baker, give it to the old people first. Give it to the old people first. There shouldn't be any big discussion in a 72-page document on how this thing is distributed. It's real simple. We've been dealing with this thing for over a year. We know who it kills. We know where 99% of the deaths come from. 98 people out of 100 that get COVID survive. And the 2 that don't, 98% of them are elderly people with comorbidities and elderly people. Because when you get older, your immune system gets depressed. I think all of these politicians are guilty of murder, starting with Cuomo, starting with that nitwit that just got appointed to the Capitol, who killed 9,000 people in Pennsylvania nursing homes. And the first thing she did when she began to put COVID people in nursing homes is take her mother out of a nursing home and put her in a hotel. So as far as I'm concerned, that was premeditated murder. This is BS.
I hear you. I hear you.
This is the United States of America letting elderly people die while they play politics. So don't even get me started on that, because I saw the line at CVS, and half of the people in that line weren't even eligible.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you need a PhD just to read the guidelines. We need you, Amanda Colvin. We have to call you. Yeah, are we eligible? This is ridiculous. It should be real easy. If you're over 70 and you got comorbidities, or you're over 65 or whatever their new stat is now, you're first in line. You and the first line workers and people who work in congregate facilities and stuff like that. But you know something? I thought medicine was about doing no harm. And when you triage people, you treat the people with the greatest necessity for care. Am I correct in that? Medical professional?
That's what I remember swearing to.
So, the last time I checked, Andrea AOC should not have been on TV at 30 years old or 31 years old showing everybody how great it is to get the shot, while some 75-year-old with a comorbidity is contracting COVID and dying.
Well, while we're talking on that, this is the form that's required by the state for you to get the vaccine. And let me read this for you. At your appointment, you may be asked for the following information: insurance card. Vaccination is free whether you have insurance or not. You have insurance, please bring that information with you. Identification include employer issued ID card that includes your name and title, government issued identification or license, and recent pay stubs. You may get a vaccine even if you don't have a driver's license or a social security number. Please identify which priority group you belong to. I am a healthcare worker, clinical or non-clinical, including in-home care worker. I work or currently reside in a skilled nursing facility, rest home, assisted living facility, or a continuing care retirement community as defined below. I am a first responder. I work or currently reside in a residential congregate care shelter setting. This information is not exhaustive. Please visit the COVID-19 distribution timeline for further information. Continuing care retirement communities listed are eligible for vaccines in phase 1. First responders examples include police, fire, public or private emergency medical services, federal law enforcement. Congregate care settings examples include group homes, shelters, treatment programs, residential education programs, and correctional facilities. Home care workers examples include personal care attendant, adult foster care worker, mental behavioral health provider providing in-home treatment, state agency staff performing direct care in the home. Then, at the end of this, you have to sign the following. I hereby attest under the penalties of perjury that to the best of my knowledge and belief, I belong to phase 1 priority group that I selected. I hereby attest under penalties of perjury that I live, work, or study in Massachusetts. Then you have to fill it all out and sign it. And you need that form before you get to CVS to get your vaccine. Showing up in that long line that you saw on the weekend did nothing but slow the process down, because people think, I don't have an appointment because I can't get one. I'm going to show up and I'm going to get the vaccine. That's not going to happen, people. You can show up all you want, but all you're doing is slowing up the process. The vaccines are issued in 15-minute intervals, so they can maximize the amount of time they have with each person. Because with each vaccine, you have a 15-minute waiting period after you get the vaccine to be sure that there's no side effects that could be health related and could be deadly. So, like anaphylaxis shock. So don't think you're doing anything to get the vaccine any sooner, because it's not going to happen. They are very tight on this. So please don't just show up at a CVS or at the first responder center at BCC and think I'm going to get the vaccine because I'm 75 years old, or I'm going to get the vaccine. No, you got to meet a specific requirement. And I appreciate Representative Fiola getting a hold of me to clarify, because I don't want people to be, thinking that, our state representatives are up there saying, give me the vaccine now. They're willing to wait until the end. And I appreciate that. And I have a great, kudos out to State Representative Cal Fiola. I also want to thank State Representative Alan Sylvia, because when I was looking into the fact that CVS was requiring people to have not only medical insurance, but prescription drug coverage, I wanted to know why. And Representative Sylvia wanted to know why as well. And he found out that that is an accepted practice to pay for the injection, not the vaccine. It pays for the injection. But as you and I talked about, Chip, that's going to kind of put a skew on the city's health plan, correct?
Absolutely, because if you have, they're not going to pay a copay for the vaccination. They're going to get the but they're not getting it for free. If they're billing the insurance company, that goes on the experience and the utilization of the plan, which then is translated into increases in the cost to the city, to the employee, and to the subsequent year's rate hike. Because every time you go to the doctor, that's part of your experience, and that's how they set the rate. But let me get back to something you talked about kudos. But our representatives should be talking about this. We got a problem. You read that. Listen, you did a very good job with it of explaining that in writing on the weekend flush. But you see, this is what disturbs me. They're listening to all these people who are getting the vaccines first, and the old people aren't there. And I understand why they put them on the list. But to me, that's not listen, if you got a 25-year-old frontline worker who's wearing a mask, has got gloves on and everything else and got the proper masks on, even if they didn't have anything on, if they got it, they're not going to really die. And the problem is, this is the thing. This is simple triage. The old people have to be in this equation. They're the people who die. They can't figure this out. They're putting a whole bunch of people on. It's like saying, well, I got to give you a shot because you might get a cold. You're going to survive a cold. 99.99999% of people who have a common cold survive it. So, it's like simple triage. You look at these people and say, if they get this thing, probably not going to be fatal. Granted, they are exposed to it more often than the average person. But then again, is that really true? I'll ask you, because you're the resident expert. Didn't they say somewhere, didn't I hear somewhere that 78% of the transmission happens in the home?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. There you go. All this is political BS. So they can posture, like you just said there. If you don't have a social security number, you can get the vaccine. So what is that saying? Is that code for illegals can get it?
Well, I think one of the reasons why they prioritized congregate housing personnel and first responders.
Yeah, congregate housing is housing. But I'm talking about regular hospital workers and frontline workers. Yeah, they should get it, and they should be on a priority list. But the first people in line should be the people that can die from this. To me, it's that simple. And I want one of these politicians to explain to me why, if I've got 3 people laying in a parking lot, and I look at the person and say, if I don't treat this person is going to die. But if this person can wait half an hour until I get stabilize this person, so I'm going to put him in a second phase. And this one has got relatively minor injuries, so we're just going to move him over until we can get to him. That's the way triage is done.
That's right.
So
black, red, yellow, and green tags.
Exactly. So the fact is, we know who the people are that should be treated first. The elderly, but they're not. And that's the problem. Just like they stick COVID people in nursing homes, and it's still doing it. But this is, like I said, this is a national disgrace. And you know why it's a national disgrace? Because politicians stuck their fingers in it. They didn't let medical, I'm serious.
Oh no, I just
They
noticed something when you
they-
said that.
let the medical professionals. They got the CDC, they got St. Fauci. Who should get them? Get the vaccine. Fauci took the vaccine too, but Fauci's 80, so of course he's in a group. But let's be perfectly frank. When you allow politicians to get anywhere near anything, it goes from taking 2 people to screw in a light bulb to 20 people screwing in a light bulb. And this is a national, it's not only a national disgrace, it's a national tragedy, because many people have lost their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers to COVID because of the way these people handle this pandemic. And it's a shame. And that's my opinion. But now that we're on that, your weekend flush, by the way, quoting Robert E. Lee, now you're going to be called a secessionist. Among other things. But that was a very appropriate quote. If and I'm paraphrasing now, if you can't handle yourself, you shouldn't be able to handle other people, or vice versa, something like that, to that effect. In other words, if you can't control yourself. So let me segue over to the superintendent. We all know the contract that he got, which is abysmal. But I pulled this article, and it was from Brockton, and it's from the Enterprise, and it says, former Brockton superintendent gets a chance at top job for a school district. It was June 17th, 2016. And it talks about Malone. Malone had $1 million contract in Brockton that they shortened. It was a 5-year contract for $1 million, and they shortened it. But see, this is what disturbs me. This article was posted before he was hired. And I don't know how anybody in Fall River can ever think that we ever vet any kind of employee. Because in this article, among the many other articles that we know of, during his time in Brockton, Malone faced criticism over whether he had complied with the city's residency rule, which he hasn't in his city either. We know it. But at least over there, they paid attention and asked him. And he lashed out. See, this is the thing. When you're the head of a department, you're supposed to be a professional. You're supposed to be able to get in front of people and not act like you're in a barracks. And, you have to have some ability, especially the educational head of a city has to have enough, be able to articulate but not be defensive and ridiculous. So he faced criticism, and he lashed out when questioned about it. And his home ownership in Roslindale. Malone said he had an apartment in Brockton, which I'm not sure if they ever confirmed, but this is a direct quote. You don't say things like this if you're being interviewed by your bosses or being questioned by a city council or anything, right? It's kind of a stupid question if you ask me, unquote. Really? Is it a stupid question to ask the superintendent of schools if he's complying with the law, with the charter, with the residency requirement? It isn't to me. It's like you saying it's a stupid question to ask me if I'm actually coming in at 9 o'clock if the workday starts at 9 o'clock. Because who cares? That's a stupid question. And then he goes on to pontificate about his own opinion, which is irrelevant. Malone said during an interview, quote, I think residency is a 20th century construct, and in a democratic society, people should be free to live where they like to. I fought for my country. Did you? Unquote. Now, what is the fact that he fought for his country got to do with abiding by the law? How can you expect students in your school system to abide by rules and regulations if this is the way you respond to questions about your compliance with rules and regulations. This is horrifying. This guy, must, I don't know how he can talk with both feet in his mouth or walk, because it seems that he's got a career of making ridiculous statements, attacking other people because he's defensive, and he doesn't comply with art. But at least Brockton, I got to give kudos to Brockton. At least they tried to figure out whether he actually was complying with their residency requirement. Our city doesn't give a damn.
They don't even check it out. They don't even try to enforce it.
They don't even ask.
And this mayor doesn't either. And he should. The city council should be asking it before any contract is signed. Who's working for who, and where are they living? And maybe if this mayor had any backbone, if he had a set of cojones, maybe he'd turn around and say, if you don't live in Fall River, we're going to deduct 10% from your paycheck.
How about just canning them, because the requirement is a requirement? This is like saying that you have a set of rules when you get hired. And look, I may almost agree with him on residency. But the fact is, it's a condition of employment. And when you take a job, you have to comply with the conditions of employment. It's that simple. So if you want a job, CJ, and you may not agree with residency, but if they say, CJ, you want this job, you're going to get $1 million for 5 years. But you got to live in the city or town. And if you don't get the job, because the residency requirement is a requirement. And you got to come to work at such and such a time, and you got to work so many days, and these are the conditions of your employment. So, to me, the average person would say, okay, now I have to make a choice. If I don't want to live in Brockton, I'm not going to take the job. You don't start getting on a soapbox and talking about the unfairness of residency requirements. It's a pre-existing condition of employment. And if you don't like it, you don't get employed. And this is the problem in Fall River. When you're a political appointee, when you're in, and when you're in, you don't have to comply with residency requirements, and then you get that contract that you went over. So now he's going to screw up again, and if they terminate him, he gets 3 months' pay. So let's do the math. What's 1/4 of $200,000? 50 grand. So Fall River School Committee not only let him get away with violating with sexual harassment, age discrimination, and violation of the American with Disabilities Act, facing hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits that they're going to pay out of our tax money. But now, if they fire him for doing it again for the umpteenth time, he's going to get a $50,000 bonus. Good work, school committee. You guys who voted for this, and anybody who votes for this contract should be out of office in the next election. Gone.
That's the gang of four. That's the right. Gang of four. Yep. And again, I think it also applies to the mayor because he didn't have the backbone to say anything. Because he said that the Ethics Commission said that he should recuse himself. They said he should recuse himself. I read the letter. I have it right here in front of me. I can bring it up. That he should recuse himself if he has a financial interest. He has no financial interest. And I'll guarantee you that those other three on the school committee are going to use the fact that they don't have a financial interest, except for Mark Costa, that they don't have a direct financial interest to get away with the Ethics Commission, and the Ethics Commission may let them go. Because again, they are useless. The ethics commission is absolutely useless. So,
well, you're right. But the thing, CJ, is that there's no financial interest for this vote. You're seeing if you're going to hire them, rehire them fundamentally, rehire
exactly.
them. And so every single person should be voting on his contract and voting no. Because if you vote to keep him and give him a bonus if he screws up again, to memorialize the total incompetence of Fall River and its public sector hiring, the only people I know to get hired semi-legit are the people who take a fire exam or a police exam. They have to take a competitive examination. They have to get a high enough mark to be on the list. And that list is based on 2 times the number of vacancies plus 1. So if you get a 70 and there's 300 people ahead of you that got 90s and 80s, you're never going to get a job no matter who you know. And when you take a competitive exam for promotion, you have to get into the top 3 in order to get a promotion. So at least you can say there's a modicum of fairness because you actually have to take a competitive exam that's given by the state, not the city. But the rest of the people in this city, ice house guards, this is how we end up with ice house guards as DCM heads. People burying people in the wrong place and still keeping jobs. A superintendent of schools that came here under a black cloud, got hired, got rehired. Now he's going to get rehired with a bonus if he screws up again. Fall River is the only place where you get a lack of performance bonus.
This is called an endorsement.
Yeah. So listen, people of Fall River, taxpayers, you paid $25,000 for the investigation that they won't tell you about, which says he couldn't get a job bagging groceries with his record. He shouldn't have got a job. Now they're going to give him another contract after he sexually harassed people, discriminated against people because of their age, and picked on people with disabilities. And they're going to rehire him. So, and every single school committee person, including the mayor, should be voting no on his contract. And if they don't, they should all be gone next November.
I want you to think about this too. A jury is going to be hearing some of these claims, is potentially going to be hearing some of these claims. And what if I were the plaintiff in this matter, I would turn around and say, obviously the school system endorses this type of behavior because they rewrote his contract. They're giving him a bonus if he screws up again and they terminate him. They didn't fire him. They only charged him 1 month of his salary, which was $16,000 and change. So the endorsement of this type of behavior is built into the system. It's perpetual. You're not going to get rid of it because they don't want to. They don't want to get rid of it because they want to keep the people that do it. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. And I know that if I was the plaintiff attorney, I would be playing up on that all the time. And personally, what I would do is I would name individually each school committee member who turned around and voted to renew his contract. I would do that immediately. And I'm not going to play games with it. That's for sure.
No, you're right. But let's look at it. What are you endorsing? And they're going to say, well, we did punish him. No, you didn't. There's a difference. He's the superintendent of schools. He has to be held to an even higher standard. And when he got here, he'd already had an abysmal track record. Because let's face it, if a PFC in the military goes out and gets drunk and stupid, they throw him in a stockade or something, or give him an Article 15, and he's got extra duty for a while. Okay.
Hate to cut you off, Chip. Hate to cut you off.
The general of the army gets drunk, pukes all over the place on national TV. He disgraces the entire United States Army. That guy's the superintendent of schools.
Thanks a lot, Chip. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and wear a mask. Bye.